when we confuse what we think is the voice of the Lord that we're hearing with another voice. There's many examples of what that other voice can be, but I'm going to be talking about and focused on voices from within us that are actually wounded. We think we are hearing the voice of the Lord, but we're actually hearing a wound within us. Always ask for confirmation. The Lord will repeat himself as often as we need him to. Ask him to confirm his word to you over and over and over again until you have a peace that what you are hearing, in fact, is of the Lord. The problem was that there was a wound within me that I was making choices from, thinking that that voice was either a healthy voice or the voice of the Lord. There's nothing wrong with this authority figure or this supervisor or even God or my circumstances. So the results of trying to please authority figures in my life ended up with me being burnt out. Like all the time. I was always burning out because it was never enough. I never felt the approval and the acceptance that only I could have as healing came to that wounded part. It's always wise to be humble enough to admit that you've missed hearing the voice of the Lord, and yet at the same time not allowing that to shatter your ability to hear the voice of the Lord or to shake your relationship with him. There's grace or missing the mark, but the Lord allows those things to happen because he wants us to recognize what voice we were actually listening to. A lot of the time, he wants us to see the wounded part of us that needs healing, and he wants us to be aware that we are not completely whole in him. There's something within us that needs to be taken care of, and that needs to be brought before him. When we're making decisions based on the roots of fear and pain and any other negative roots within us that is coming up through this part of us that's wounded, there is no way that we are actually hearing God's voice. We are hearing our own voice. When I started to notice this pattern where I was making choices in order to gain acceptance and approval from authority figures, and I started to see that this was not healthy. It took a while for me to figure it out. Then was I able to work on where this lie came from, and that in fact it was a lie, that I needed to be accepted and approved by people, especially authority figures, to have this sense of worth about myself and this understanding that I was valued. When I recognized that lie, I was able to work backwards to where it entered my life in the first place, which goes all the way back to childhood trauma. And then I was able to get healing. And then I had to retrain my brain not to fall into that pattern again, which also took some effort and awareness, self-awareness. But the Lord was gracious in all of that. So another way to safeguard against hearing a voice that is not of the Lord is to be in the practice of taking captive certain thoughts that we might have, or even beliefs that we might have that are in fact not of the Lord and are lies. Coming to the Lord and asking him to show you what things do I hold on to as truth are in fact not of you, God, and not truth. And he'll start revealing that to you, and it's amazing. My relationship with the Lord is a lot different now. I live out of knowing that I'm already accepted and approved by him, instead of trying to find his approval by doing works, which is really a works-based salvation. I have come to a place where I don't seek that approval anymore or seek to be pleasing to those authority figures. I seek to only please the Lord, and doing so again out of a place of assurance of who I am in him and already received and loved and accepted by him. Because the Lord wants us healed and whole in him, he will allow us to go around that same mountain several times so that we will wake up and see the problem that we are experiencing over and over again. It's not quite our circumstances or other individuals in our life. The problem lies within us. Within our belief system, we might be believing something that is not true, or there is a part in us that needs to be healed. When you do a lot of work within your heart and your soul, seeking wholeness, seeking healing in him, those lies do surface. And when they do surface, then you can take them and you can reverse them with truth. Then the enemy can't use those lies to deceive us, nor can we deceive ourselves. We can actually hear the voice of the Lord a lot more clearly without the murkiness of lies being in that water as well. We want to hear the pure voice of God, and that is something that we have to work on to remove these filters. The filters of deception, lies, the filter of woundedness and pain, in order to hear clearly what God is saying. We're also still in a healing process. Healing continues on throughout life. As we continue to heal more and more, we'll be able to hear the voice of God more and more clearly, because none of that woundedness or the deception that's created by the wounds, again, pollutes what God is trying to say to us. Actively allow yourself to continue to walk in healing. Allow yourself to sit before the Lord, to practice hearing His voice. Read the Word of God so that you can distinguish His voice from other voices. And don't be afraid to make a mistake. Continue to grow in Him.